Hello and welcome to Immigration USA with Kathia, a show where Kathia Quiros, will explain to you the immigration news, will tell you how is that we as immigrants can improve our life situations in the United States, and most importantly, a way in which I share the love of God, in which I can tell you every week how that we as immigrants can continue living in this country in the most honest, transparent way. So, the most important thing is for us as immigrants to realize that at this point in the history of the United States, we are fighting for our dignity. We are trying to show every US citizen that we are not here to harm anyone, that all we want is to be good, responsible members of our communities and work honestly to improve the lives of everybody. So please help me in this small effort to provide information, to educate the immigrant community, and to continue working on keeping families together. Let's start. Today, we have many news that I would like to share with you. The first one is this message from President Trump, directly from President Trump, who came to True Social, his social media platform, and was in a social media in a press conference talking about the need to make changes for the agricultural and the hospitality industries. What am I talking about? Well, President Trump was yesterday announced that changes are coming to the immigration laws because his friends in the hospitality industry and in the agricultural industry have been calling him, telling him that all these raids and all these detentions of immigrants who are good, hardworking people are hurting their industries and are allowing criminals that he says have come during the Biden administration, has allowed these criminals to obtain these jobs that the immigrants, the hardworking immigrants, are leaving because of the fear of ICE. So the truth is, can the president make these types of changes? The reality is no. The president cannot do an amnesty, cannot create an amnesty, because the only way we can have some type of immigration reform is through a change in the laws. And the laws will only change when Congress decides to do something. So why is he talking about changes? Well, because that's all he can say to make peace with those friends of his who are calling him to tell him that he is hurting them, that these immigration policies are hurting. Most of the people who voted for President Trump voted on the idea that the president was going to deport all the criminals, all the foreign criminals from the United States. And nobody, even us, the immigrants, said that that was a bad idea because we don't want any criminals, US citizens or foreigners. But the truth is, he couldn't find that many criminals because we immigrants are not criminals. Most of us are good, law-abiding people. So when he realized he wasn't going to make the numbers he had offered, he started attacking good, normal, hardworking people. And he never thought that US citizens, especially first and second generation kids of immigrant parents, were gonna rebel and we're gonna say, no, enough is enough. What the government is doing, it's not right. It goes against the type of people American people are, because we are hardworking people and we don't want to damage or injure anyone, especially not little US citizen kids whose immigrant parents need to remain next to them because these parents have to provide. During that presidential campaign, the president talked a lot about all these immigrants who receive federal benefits, who take advantage of the public benefits, which is not true because immigrants are not entitled to public benefits. But the biggest evidence that this is not true is the fact that today ICE is going to places of work to detain immigrants because the immigrants are working. They are not living in their houses watching TV, collecting on Social Security or on welfare. No, they are working. And evidence of that is that ICE is raiding places of work. So, is it possible for the president to do amnesty? No, but it's very possible for him to push Congress to change the laws. Now, when are we going to see this? We don't know. It may be that he's only saying it to make peace with these people that are complaining to him. Or maybe it's possible that he realizes that whatever they are doing against the immigrant community, it's not very popular because every day more and more US citizens are standing up in protest. We don't know, but we will see. And as soon as I find out, I would let you know. So let's talk about other news. The second news of the week was the very short time detention of Senator Padilla. Senator Alex Padilla is a Mexican-American senator of the United States who represents California. And he was at a press conference of Secretary Noem, and he tried to make a question. And he couldn't do it because law enforcement grabbed him, took him out of the room, dropped him in the floor, and arrested him for a few minutes. The scene of what happened, it's really, really sad because he's a senator of the United States. He represents the state of California. Yet he was treated with a lot of disrespect. And so you probably are asking, but how did this happen? Can they treat someone like that just for asking a question? They shouldn't, right? It's not regular procedure. Law enforcement, it's not supposed to attack a person for trying to ask a question. So what happens now? Well, they have to do an investigation. They have to do an investigation to see what it's going on, because this is not what happened is not right. And it makes you realize that that if they treat a senator like that, how is that they're treating the immigrants, right? If they can disrespect someone who hasn't done absolutely anything wrong, how can they disrespect our immigrants who have no voice? So that's why it's so important to go to our next topic, the protests. Tomorrow, there are going to be protests around the whole United States. And the main topic of these protests is the abuse of power of the government against the immigrant community. These protests have to be 100% peaceful protests. They cannot have any type of violence in any way, shape, or form. Why? Because the main purpose is not to attack the government. The main purpose is not to make a political scene out of this. The main purpose is to show the government that the United States as a whole does not agree with abusive tactics against people who cannot defend themselves. That's it. And so if you want to stand up for respect to others, then come to the protests, but come peacefully. Come with the idea of asking for justice, but do not come to fight, to insult, to mistreat anyone in any way, shape, or form. We need your help. We need your support, but it has to be peaceful in every way, because as soon as there is one arrest, then we are giving the anti-immigrant community the chance to say that we are violent, that we immigrants are violent, and that's not true. We are not. Most immigrants are mothers and fathers who are working every day under the shadows to make sure their kids have everything they need. So there will be protests tomorrow everywhere. If you want to find out about the protests in your community, all you have to do is go to Google, write down No Kings protests, and you will find the address and the time where they will be reuniting in your area. Okay, let me see. Let's go to the next news. Well, the next news is for the people who came from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, and who came with parole. If you were here on parole and you had an employment authorization, most likely you've received already one of these emails, that basically say, we provided you with parole, but we have terminated this parole, and we provided you with an employment authorization that was valid for 2 years, but we are canceling it today. As of today, you don't have any status in the United States. You must leave. If you are going to leave, like we're telling you, this says the government, you can sign up for CBP Home. It's an app that you can sign up to, and the government will pay you $1,000 to leave the United States. Now they say, if you don't leave, then we're going to go after you, we're going to detain you, or you are going to be deported. Especially if you have been here for less than 2 years, you do not have the right to see a judge. You do not have the right for a deportation process. You will be detained and removed to your home country. Now, you'll probably say, Kathia, I can't go back to Venezuela. I can't go back to Nicaragua, or I can't go back to Cuba. Well, the government doesn't care. They will make sure that they return you. So what do you do? What do you do in this situation? Well, first, you need to talk to a lawyer to explore if there are any other routes, to explore if you have a family member who can file a petition for you, to explore if you can ask for a humanitarian visa such as U visa, VAWA, or T visa. If not, if there are no other alternatives, well, maybe it's time to start looking for visas in another country. For people who have education, it's not that hard to think about moving to Canada or to Europe, because they have, degrees that allows them the opportunity to find jobs in other places. The biggest problem is for people who don't have higher education, who are doing general labor, because other countries are as hard as the United States to provide visas, working visas for those types of people. So what happens then? Well, it's tough. It's really hard. It's a very harsh situation for thousands of immigrants in the United States. And the saddest part is that we need those hands, right? If you are a small business owner, you are probably desperate looking for employees. If you are a medium-sized business, it's even harder for you because the regulations are more stricter for you. So it's a situation that makes no sense, but that's what we're living right now. So that's for the people with parole from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Let's talk about now to those who are legal permanent residents and are thinking about becoming U.S. citizens. Did you know that when a legal permanent resident has a mental disability that cannot allow them to learn English or study the civics questions, that person can submit a medical certification of disability so the government does not force them to take the test? Well, yeah, it's possible. It's possible to do that. Under the law, if you're a legal permanent resident and you are not able to learn English or learn the 100 civics questions, then you are able to submit a medical exemption to be able to become a U.S. citizen without taking the exam. That process is made through a form called N-648. It's a medical exemption signed by a doctor. No, it's not like, oh, I cannot learn English. I'm sorry. Let me do the exam in Spanish or don't take the exam at all. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to go to your primary doctor. Your doctor has to fill out this N648 form, and then you submit that with your application for citizenship, and an immigration officer has to review it, has to believe that what the doctor says is correct, and then they will let you become a U.S. citizen without taking the exam. Well, today the government has announced changes to the procedure because the government does not want to provide citizenship to people with these medical exemptions. They feel like the doctors are making it too easy for people, and they say that doctors have committed fraud, which I find really hard to believe, but that's what it says. It says, we've seen instances where doctors have committed fraud. So what they're saying now is that there's going to be a lot more scrutiny for people who want to apply for citizenship with a medical exception disability, the medical exception. So now they're saying you have to apply for the citizenship with the medical exception form, and you are not allowed to submit several N648s. You will have to submit only one. And they are going to scrutinize those forms to ensure that the doctor is making a very good explanation about how is that the disability does not allow the person to study or to learn new things. So what is going to happen? Well, everything that I just told you is very technical, but in truth, what they're saying is we are going to make life really hard for people who are submitting these medical exemptions forms. So if you are one of those, or your family, because normally the people who submit these forms don't do it on their own. So let me explain. I normally take a case for a person who needs a medical disability exemption, when the person cannot maintain a conversation with anybody, or cannot tell you where they are or how many children they have. So normally it's for elder people who suffer from Alzheimer's disease, or who have had some type of injury. They have been in an accident, they have had brain surgery, or somebody who another example is my kids with Down syndrome, or severely autistic, who are not aware of their surroundings. That those people are very good candidates for these medical exemption, right? They cannot learn any language. Some of them don't talk any language, and some of them, if they're able to, it's in their native language. So learning a new language is not an option for them. Some of them have lost the ability to learn or to memorize completely if you have a severe form of Alzheimer's. So in all those cases, having this certification from the doctor, it's a no-brainer. Now, there are other situations where the government is not going to allow a medical exception. For example, depression, severe depression, some other types of mental illness. So what the government is saying is, we're going to scrutinize these N648 more and more. So beware. Now, if you're a legal permanent resident and you want to become a U.S. citizen, now is the time to do it, because this is only the first of many changes that they're going to do to the naturalization process to stop people from becoming U.S. citizens. So please, please, please contact a lawyer and become a U.S. citizen. This space, Immigration USA with Kathia, is not for me to offer you my services. So I will not offer you my services. But it is for me to tell you to seek the advice of a lawyer, any lawyer that you want. Just go and look for a lawyer. We are going through the hardest times for immigrants in the United States. You don't want to risk applying for something unless you are 100% sure that you qualify for what you are looking for. So if you are going to apply for the green card, make sure that you qualify for it. If you are going to apply for citizenship, likewise. Because in immigration, if you go to the website of immigration, you see that you have to fill out a form. And if you are ignorant of the laws, but you think you know a lot, you're going to start filling out these forms and you're going to think, oh, this is easy. It's not easy, because a lot of these forms are very tricky. And because filling out a form doesn't mean that you qualify for what you're asking. So you may fill out a form, pay for it, send it out. And then after the interview, you are not only going to end up with a denial, but the worst part is that they're going to put you in deportation proceedings. And so you don't want to risk that. Sometimes it's better not to apply for anything than to apply for something that it's going to make you end up deported. So beware and be very careful. Look for the advice of a lawyer, okay? The last thing I want to talk about is the I-9 audits that are going around the whole United States. And you're probably asking me, what is an I-9 audit? Well, an I-9 audit is a silent raid. It's the silent way that the government has to notify a business that they're being raided. But how is that they do it? They send a letter, and they say in this letter, we need you to provide us with a copy of the I-9 form that all the people that work for you provided to you before they started working. So give us the I-9s of the last 3 years. And so the employer it's obligated to submit them to ICE. And then ICE reviews them, that's their job, and notifies the employer who has papers and who is not legal in the United States. And so then these employees are provided a few days to correct any mistakes. And if they cannot correct them, then the employer needs to fire them. That's an I-9 audit. And right now, these I-9 audits are going all around the United States. Many different types of businesses are being sent the I-9 audit letter. And this is a great time to remind all the employers that they are not the Department of Immigration, and their job is not to ensure that the documents that the employees provide are valid or not, but they have responsibilities to the government, and they have the responsibility to ensure that all the processes of the I-9 are followed. So the I-9 form, it's a document that needs to be filled out by the employee and by the employer, where the employee it's obligated to if the employee is an immigrant, it's obligated to provide the different documents that prove that they are legally entitled to work in the United States. So as long as the employer follows all these procedures, then regardless of what happens with the employer will be fine. But if the employer knows at any time that the person is undocumented, if the employer does not fill out the forms correctly, if the employer does not review the documents of the employees, then the employer may also be sanctioned, even with criminal charges, and may end up in jail after paying huge fines. So as an employer, you don't want to be in that situation. So be careful, look for legal advice. There are immigration lawyers who do pre-audits to make sure that all the documents are correct in case one of these silent raids happens to the employer. And also, it's very important to let all the immigrant community who is working right now that if a silent audit comes to your place of employment, you are put on notice that ICE is surrounding that business, and they may very well come in person to that place of business if they find that anybody in that group of people has a criminal record or is wanted by anybody, by any law enforcement. So those are the news of everything that has happened during this week. I know it's a lot, and I know a lot of it. It's not funny and it's not good, and it just shows you how hard things are right now for the immigrant community. But in the middle of all of that, we keep working. We keep fighting to better our lives and the lives of our families. And we have to have hope that the rule of law will prevail. And so do not despair. Do not think that we are at the end of the road. We are not. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of US citizens that are protesting for the benefit of the immigrants. And that should make us feel very proud of the kids that we have raised, because a lot of the people who are protesting right now in the streets of the United States are the kids and the grandkids of US citizens, of immigrants, the kids and the grandkids of immigrants. And that makes me, as an immigrant mother, that makes me very proud, because regardless of the political opinion that anybody may have, the fact that our children can fight for justice, fight against oppression and abuse of power, that is beautiful. So let's keep fighting for good causes. Hi, Julieta. Thank you for being here. If you are here, this is the time where you can ask me questions. This is my life in English, so please write everything in English. Metiche Return says, "Oh my God, he's violating the law. He's a fascist." Well, we are not going to give names, bad names to anybody, because I don't do politics. I do service to immigrants, and I do justice, but I don't participate in any politics. Let me see. Lizzie says they're violating rights. Yes, they are. They're violating rights. The problem is that a lot of people in the United States thinks that immigrants don't have rights. I don't know who gave them that idea, because the Constitution of the United States never thought about making a difference between foreigners or people who were born here. And the main reason that happened is because the United States, it's a country of immigrants. So tough, huh? I know. I got my interview before work authorization was approved. Is this bad? No, it's not bad. You're lucky if you got your immigration interview fast. So no, you shouldn't worry about that. I have a lot of cases where I get interviews before that employment authorization arrives. How long does it take to get employment authorization for a U visa? About 5 to 6 years. What if a Venezuelan that stays gets married with a US citizen? It will help? Oh, definitely, yes. If a Venezuelan enters the United States legally, either through a student visa, a tourist visa, or parole, and the US citizen overstays, then marries a US citizen, then that Venezuelan may apply for adjustment of status, which means green card, inside the United States. Could I petition my stepbrother? Yes, as long as your stepbrother meets the definition of a stepbrother. Let me give you the definition. He or she is your stepbrother or stepsister if the day your parents got married, you guys were both under 18. So it's also your half brother, half sister. Yes, you can also apply for them. Let me see. I'm looking for your questions in English. If you want to do this in Spanish, I do have a show in Spanish every day. The handles for everything that I do in Spanish is called Inmigrando con Katia, and Immigration USA with Katia, it's all in English. I have a 601 pending. What can we do if we get detained in these rates? Unfortunately, the fact that you have a 601 waiver pending does not stop the government from deporting you. So what you can do is know your rights. So what are your rights if ICE detains you? Well, number one, you say your name, and then you say, I would like to talk to a lawyer and I want to see a judge. And I am not going to sign anything, and I would like to remain silent. As long as you remember these 5 things, then they will not be able to deport you immediately. You don't sign anything because most likely they're going to try to make you sign voluntary departure. And you can't do that because then you lose your right to see the judge. So you do what I just told you, and you wait until you're bailed out. And once you are bailed out, you go through the immigration process at the court. And whatever comes first, the approval of the waiver or the end of your deportation process, then you will be able to remain in the United States for as long as necessary for your waiver to be approved so you can go and get your green card. Can I know how long take the residence for a U visa? Well, the U visa right now is taking about 10 years. And once you receive the U visa, you have to wait 3 years before you can apply for the green card. Hola, and Rod, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I got VAWA and I got my receipt. Will that be enough for ICE? No, nothing is enough for ICE. You got a VAWA case pending, and if ICE gets a hold of you, you can let them know. They will see it on their computers. Hopefully, if you have not committed any crime, they'll let you go because you're a victim. Hopefully, there's no guarantees. But once you get the receipt notice for the VAWA, right now it's taking 2 to 3 years to get an approval. Can a U.S. citizen brother help with adjustment of status? The U.S. citizen brother can help with a family petition, not with adjustment of status. The family petition has to be approved. The family petition it's going to take many years before the visa can turn into a green card, about 20 to 25 years. Hi, Miroslava. Thank you for being here. I got approved for asylum in October 2019 and my permanent residency in October 2020. When can I apply for citizenship? After 4 years and 9 months. 4 years and 9 months. Let me see. Okay, guys, I gotta go, but I am super thankful for your presence today. I do these videos, these live videos, without announcing anything whenever I can because I'm always working. But I wanted to do it today before the protests of tomorrow, just to make sure that you understand that we need your presence at these protests, but we need them peacefully. And if you're an immigrant, please do not come. These protests are not for immigrants to come because the risk of being detained and being deported is too high. These protests are only for U.S. citizens who want to raise their voices against the treatment of immigrants in the United States. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for sharing, and thanks for joining and subscribing. Bye-bye.